We are Future Gadget Laboratories. My name is William.
I'm Alex.
I'm Henry. I'm Nathaniel.
And I'm Sydney.
And we've created Propbox. So our client is Amy Gurin from the University of Alabama in Huntsville and the theater department. And she has a lot of items in her department's inventory. The items are stored all over the place in many different buildings, and knowledge of what's in the inventory is held by many different people, and if they come and go, knowledge about what's in the inventory is lost. So they needed a way to manage their inventory and keep track of what needs repairs and stuff. And most of the stuff on the market today is expensive or not what they needed. And we had a $0 budget. So what we needed to come up with was a system that could search and filter for inventory items, add, edit, and remove items from the database, track and modify changes to the items, and provide a barcode to the items so that it could be checked in and out of the database. Alex?
Yeah, so our initial design looked kind of like this. So first we had to figure out what technologies we wanted to use to build this product. Our product is web-based so that it can be easily accessed on all different platforms, including mobile. We made sure that our application was mobile compatible. So you can use it on any browser, on any device, basically. The back-end tools that we decided upon were chosen based on scalability and on budget concerns. So Firebase we used for authentication, but not for the back end of our our server back end, just because there's a certain tier like the way that Firebase works is it's not scalable for our product. So we chose Google App Engine for our back end. Our server and all of our back end logic is written in Python, and then with web-based development, JavaScript and HTML and CSS are just kind of the bundle. And then our code collaboration was all done through GitHub. So this is kind of what our development timeline looked like. Basically, the most important thing for us was to front-load our development so that we prioritized all of our features and our user stories and figured out what really needed to be done to make this a viable product. We made sure to get all of that stuff at least started and mostly completed, honestly, very early in the semester. That way we could later focus on our UI and on refining those features so that we didn't just implement kind of a halfway developed version of what we wanted our features in our application to be. So Nathaniel's going to talk more about our design process.
Thank you very much, Alex. So before we could start developing the website, we first drew some prototypes that we put on sheets of paper. So we had the general early idea of how we wanted the website to appear to the end user. Here you can see that we have two sheets that show two example pages from the prototype that we had. On the left-hand side, we have the page to add a new item. So for instance, if there was no, say, pants in the database and you wanted to add a pair of pants, then you could go into the new item page and you can add the name, the description, its size, an image to show what the pants look like. You could also add tags for assistance in searching it later on, and then you could create the new item. On the right-hand side, we have the search infrastructure for our prototype application. So when you went to this page, you could search for specific tags and items by size, or by color, or by the type, whether it was a costume or whether it was a prop. And then on the right-hand side, there would be a grid that would show you the results that matched what you were searching for. However, over the course of the project, a couple of things came up that we did not expect that ensured that we would have to scrap some of the items that we had early on in the design process. For instance, we had 1 semester to complete this project, which means that time constraints came up, so some of the items that we were initially going to include but would take a lot of time to implement, we decided to eliminate. The other was the poor quality of online documentation for specific features or specific libraries that we were required to use if we wanted to implement the prototype as is. In implementing them, we realized that some of the official documentation were not quite up to scratch, so we decided to scrap them. And finally, and most importantly, we had to take into account the needs of our clients. Amy did not, for example, want us to include groups, so what groups, which we had included in our initial prototype, we decided to scrap. And now Henry will walk you through an example use case of our application.
So, hi. I'm just going to take you through a day in the life of a screenwriter, director, new student at UAH who's kind of, just getting started to this system. So, my name's William, but you can just call me Willie. And I've got this great idea for a new production. And I think I'm just going to call it Hamlet. I don't think it's a name that's ever really been used before. So, I'm going to go to Propbox, and I'm going to log in. Thankfully, I've had somebody else already approve me as an admin. And I'm going to go through and kind of peruse. So, I've decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and make a list that I'm just going to kind of keep track. I'm going to use to keep track of all the props and costumes that I need for my production. So I'm going to call it Hamlet 2018. I'm going to create the list, and then I can kind of go back to perusing. I look through this list and I see, I really like fake blood. I think I'll use a lot of that. And I notice I see a tunic that I like, and to go with that nice combination, I really need something to just get that blood onto the tunic. So I'm going to search for a dagger, but sadly we don't have a dagger because we're sad. So I went out and I bought one, and I'm going to add it to our warehouse. So I take a picture of it, I upload a picture, I write a short description, I give it a name. There's various other attributes that I add, such as tags and color, but I'm just going to kind of skip over those now for the sake of time. We add those to the database, and now we can see that our dagger's there. We can add it to our list and continue on trying to build this production's list of props and costumes. So I go to the list, I look around, I think, what am I missing? I think, well, what else do you need to kill people besides daggers? We can use poison. So I look for poison, and sure enough, we've used poison in a previous production, so it's already in here, and I just go ahead and add it to my list. And now I'm ready to put on a new, completely original production. Cool, so now I'm going to go over to Sydney, who's going to tell you about kind of our lessons learned.
Yeah, so overall, we and our client are very satisfied with the product we came up with. After some reflection of how our process went, we found that there were a lot of things we did right, and actually not many things that we did wrong. If there were anything we could improve on in particular, it would be to become better at estimating story point lengths. In particular, we had a bad habit of overestimating and underestimating a lot of how long this story point is, or how long this user story is going to take to implement. There were also many instances of we're not sure if this decision was overambitious, or if we should, or if we reined ourselves in too much, thinking that we wouldn't actually be able to complete it. AKA, we weren't sure if we were being lazy about it, or if we were like, maybe we are shooting for the moon on this. And it really varied from person to person in terms of that, but overall, it didn't really impact our product. At the end of the day, what we did well is what really solidified our success. We prioritized our user stories right off the bat and determined which ones had to get done absolutely for a minimum viable product. We pushed to get all of those done during the first sprint if possible, so that way we would have as much time towards the end to do any refining for any debugging. As Alex already mentioned earlier, it paid off in more ways than one. We were in constant communication. Slack worked really well, and we were at every team meeting, which was weekly at a minimum. We always informed people if we had something on our plate for some other class or schedule conflict, so that way other people could pick up where others left off, which was really great on everyone's part. And we also, after figuring out what our strengths and weaknesses were, we gave everyone a specific role, so that way we could specialize in what we were good at in terms of management and whatnot. And we're setting early deadlines so that way we could complete all of these tasks ahead of schedule, and if we couldn't, it would be a big deal if we missed them anyway. So overall, we're very happy with our product. Thank you again for listening to us, and we will open the floor to questions.